Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today is Friday, January 24th, and it's almost there. Almost there for the Super Bowl. But one thing I was thinking about, I was thinking in my mind, and I was like, I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I can't wait to watch it. But then I realized, all this excitement, and I'm hoping the Super Bowl was this Sunday. It's like, I don't want that, because if it was, then that means no football until August. Till August. I don't want to wait until August to watch some football, and it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough time, but we gotta focus on this week. We got the Pro Bowl coming up, which we'll talk about the Pro Bowl rosters with Team Rice versus Team Sanders. Also, I'll talk about the Browns finally getting their new head coach, and I need to discuss about the Browns because they're all sorts of screwed up right now. And also, just some quick hits around the college football and around the NFL. Not a whole lot of news today or this week. It's been pretty slow. But one quick thing I want to get out to is the people in Texas, my home state of Texas. Please stay off the roads, because apparently in the state of Texas right now, they're going through this crazy winter freeze. And I have no idea. In December, it's 70s, it's 80s sometimes, maybe, if they're lucky. In December, it's 70 and 80 degrees. But once it hits February, oh no, that's when winter starts apparently, because now they get 20 degrees, ice on the road. So, and I feel like this is a good time. My show's on Friday. There's apparently most schools in the state of Texas are shut down. And, why be stuck at, since you're going to be stuck at home anyways, why not listen to the show? I mean, why not? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyways, here we go with college football news. Louisville defensive coordinator Clint Hurt will be leaving. Louisville will be taking a coaching position with the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears haven't said anything about it, but Louisville did say that he was leaving to take an NFL position, and rumors, or not rumors, but sources have been saying that it's the Chicago Bears position over there. Also, Florida State backup quarterback Jacob Coker has been granted a release from his scholarship and will transfer to Alabama. And one thing that I was going through, seeing what's happening, and apparently this guy almost won the starting job over Jameis Winston at Florida State this year. So this could have been a completely different story. Now, if he would have struggled, maybe Jameis Winston would have took over and, same thing happened again. But, anyways, they're looking at this guy as, could be a legit player for Alabama to probably take over. He will be able to play this year. He doesn't have to sit out a year, apparently, I guess because of your red shirt or something like that. He won't have to sit out at Alabama. So this guy could be the new starting quarterback, because Alabama's going to be... It's going to be different. We're so used to seeing A.J. McCarron, and before that it was Greg McElroy. And now, boom. McElroy. Is that right? Or is that the golfer? Greg... I feel like that's still right, but if not, I just made a mistake. Anyways, he plays for the Jets, but y'all know who I'm talking about. But this guy could be, and Lane Kiffin being the offensive coordinator, quarterback's coach, he's going to be walking into a pretty big situation there at Alabama, trying to find out a starting quarterback. They do have Blake Sims, who is a versatile dual threat type quarterback, but Alabama has a pro-style offense, and they don't know if he's actually going to be able to fit into that type of offense. And Alabama's had Luke Del Rio transfer to Oregon State last week, so they have a pretty big quarterback question mark around there that I don't think a lot of people are talking about Alabama. I mean, just because they didn't win a national championship, they're still a top team in college football, even though they got blown out against Oklahoma. Okay. Anyways, we all know Alabama. They have a big question mark at quarterback for this upcoming season. University of Alabama in Birmingham, UAB, hires Jacksonville State Bill Clark as head coach. He was 11-4 at Jacksonville State. Big upgrade right there. Also, Louisiana Tech. I'll talk about a huge upgrade. Check this out. So, Louisiana Tech hires former Texas Longhorns defensive coordinator Manny Diaz as their defensive coordinator. This is where it gets just just the smartest decision right here to hire this guy. Because check this out. Remember, Diaz was fired after just 2 games this season. After just 2 games as defensive coordinator for the Longhorns, he was fired because of a 42-21 loss to BYU on the road, where he gave up 550 rushing yards, not total yards, just rushing yards to BYU. And apparently Louisiana Tech this season was ranked 63rd in total defense just this year. So you're looking at, I don't understand why Louisiana Tech would want to hire him unless they're looking for recruiting purposes, saying, hey, we can get him. He's from Texas, Louisiana, Texas connection. Maybe he knows some recruits we can pull in, and just hope and pray that this guy can still become a really good defensive coordinator, because I don't see why they would hire him other than maybe recruiting purposes. But as defensive coordinator, after he gave up 550 rushing yards to BYU, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why you would go hire him. But that's Louisiana Tech, and that's their defensive coordinator now. And that's basically it for college football news. It's been very slow college football, and it's sad. College football, I love it. We do have the Senior Bowl coming up pretty soon, so that'll be exciting to watch. But let's make our transition over to the NFL, which breaking news just came out. Former Cowboys defensive tackle Josh Brent has been sentenced to 10 years in. Well, this is where it's crazy. He's sentenced to 10 years in prison for the crash that killed his teammate Jerry Brown about, a year or two? No, it wasn't 2 years ago. It was about a year ago. So he's sentenced to 10 years, but then after that, I guess there's some kind of mix-up or something, because now it says he received a 10-year suspended sentence and will serve 180 days in jail. To be honest with you, I don't really know what that means, suspended sentence. I'm guessing that's just kind of, he'll do 180 days, and then we'll think about whether he still gets the 10 years or he gets a little bit more time, or just that's it. I don't know. That's what I'm assuming. But either way, he's going to jail. And if it's just 180 days that he goes to jail for it, because of that would be dumb. If it was just 180 days and that's it. Because, he was drunk, he was drinking and driving, killed a teammate, manslaughter, kabam. 180 days does not prove justice. Just saying. And also, the Browns. Let's talk about the Browns. The Browns hired a new head coach. They're the last team remaining to find a new head coach, and they hire Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator Mike Pettine as their head coach. Now, I have a little bit of issue with this. Now, Cleveland, I don't see why the Browns' job looks bad, or why anybody wouldn't want to take the Browns. Now, hear me out. Now, I know usually when you just think about it, if you don't look at anything else and you say, and someone asks you, why wouldn't you take the Browns? You would think, well, they're the Browns. Why would you want to go to Cleveland? Why would you want to be a player or a coach for the Browns? I can understand that. But if you look at the roster that they have now, and what could be, a potential pretty solid team, especially in the AFC where it's kind of weak. And this is why I say this. Now, we'll go in just kind of like subcategories, I guess you could say. If you look at the Browns, Josh Gordon, their wide receiver, that's their stud, that's their playmaker, that's basically right now with the roster that they have, that's their face of the franchise. I know you could say Joe Hayden on the other side, a defensive back, but, we've really haven't talked about him too much, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit. So right now, Josh Gordon led the league in yards per catch and total receiving yards this year over Calvin Johnson. So you have to say, and he didn't have a quarterback. He didn't have any good quarterback. Now, Jason Campbell, I think, is a pretty solid quarterback. He played pretty good this year. Yeah, even with the concussion, he threw for over 300-plus yards. And then the week after, when he came back, he almost threw for 400 yards against the New England Patriots. So, and I know Patriots have, not the best defense, but Jason Campbell is a pretty solid quarterback for what he had to do to go in there. Brian Hoyer, that is, I know he led them to a pretty good record while he was there, but I don't know if I could put my faith in Brian Hoyer to be the quarterback of the future. Brandon Whedon, he's done. There's no reason to keep him unless you can, if you can trade him to get, a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick in next year's draft or even possibly this year's. Try to get the most you can out of him because I think he just couldn't make it in the NFL. That's it. So with all that, I mean, you had a receiver that led the league in receiving yards and yards per catch with not the best quarterback. So you got a pretty good offense right there. Running back wise, it's kind of mixed. Willis McGahee, he's not going to be the guy you can just lean on if he even comes back next year. I don't know too much on their running back depth. I know they have Dion Lewis. Now he's like 5'7" or something like that, 5'8", but he's pretty good. He can be your Darren Sproles. So that's you put him on that side. They're gonna need to draft a top running back, and thankfully this year, good job Browns. You have a pretty good running back class that's coming out that you can go after. Okay. Sorry. White Sox and manager Robin Ventura agreed to a multi-year extension. He was 148 and 176 in 2 seasons. That was some news that just came in. That's baseball news. We're talking about Browns. Browns, back to you. So, where was I? Browns, running backs, wide receivers. Yeah, I lost track of where I was, but that was basically your offense right there. They have, running back class. You can get someone pretty good out of there. Defense-wise, that's where the Browns kind of struggled on. And I know I don't think they were that bad at defense this year, but I mean, drafting-wise, I mean, I'm sure you could pick up pretty solid people and in free agency. So the whole point in my mind is I don't think the Browns' job was that bad, where anybody would, the people that were on their list, their top priorities to get, it basically means something's wrong with the organization, not with the roster, but up above, because clearly we can all see that Browns have a talented wide receiver and an offense that has a lot of potential. Defensively, it's going to need a little bit of work, but that's why you're head coach, and that's why you get things done. So roster-wise, that really should be your least concern of who you got. And now if you have other options where you can go to Detroit to be the head coach, then I understand. If you want to go to Tennessee, that could be debatable. But I think the main problem why coaches turned down the Browns' job in the first place, because this Mike Pettine was not even on their original list of head coaches of coaches they wanted to interview or hire. And that says a lot. If you had a list and you couldn't go through and you couldn't get any of those people, and that means you had to go to some other place. Now, I'm not dissing this guy too much. I'm gonna give him some good props. He's got a good few amount of positives I'm gonna talk about in just a minute. But just means up above there is some situation, this management, that did not click throughout the interviews. Another reason why the Browns' job could have been pretty solid is if you look at the division. The AFC North right now is weak. Bengals, yes, they're a great team in the regular season, and I love me some Andy Dalton. He's from TCU. Huge fan, but 3 straight years in the playoffs, just terrible games. Terrible games. They're basically like the Texans were. They were good in the regular season, but once it came to the postseason, playing really good teams, you kind of struggle and you can't get it done. You can't push it farther. So, you can look as Bengals being your main competition. Now, I know the Ravens, they won the Super Bowl last year, but look how bad they were this year. They were boring to watch. Their offense is just plain. I know they have Torrey Smith. I know they have Ray Rice. Joe Flacco is not worth the amount of money that he got in that contract, but it's still a solid quarterback. Defensively, they're inexperienced and kind of just all out of the place. Not the same Ravens defense that we come to know and love. So with all that, Ravens I don't see as a huge threat. And Browns gave them a pretty good fight these past, the 2 games that they played. Steelers, they almost made that push into the playoffs. Some things didn't go their way. Field goal. Chargers. Yeah. Anyways, so with all that, Steelers just kind of just downhill, not really needing to worry. Now the Browns did get blown out against the Steelers in the last game, but hey, new head coach, you can make things happen, and I don't see the Steelers as a huge threat. So with all that, what I'm trying to say is, as I kept saying and mixing it around, Browns have a legitimate shot if they had a good head coach and making some changes in the draft and some free agency to maybe make a wild card next year. I'm not saying they win the division, even if they got a really good head coach like Ken Wisenhunt, and that's basically who I think was the best head coach out there. If they got him, I wouldn't say they win the division because of the Bengals being up there and, the Ravens kind of giving them a little bit more of a fight, but a wild card is sure right there, is close for the Browns, which is kind of weird to say, but it is. It really is. Now with this hiring of Mike Pettine, I really can't see Browns even making the playoffs, even with the talented roster they could potentially have. Because imagine, with the 4th pick overall, if they draft Johnny Manziel as quarterback, and he puts up a good fight in the training camp, saying he's got to prove himself and all this other stuff, and let's say he does pretty good, pretty solid. Not saying he's a Pro Bowl, or not saying he throws for tons of yards or has a good stat ratio QBR, but just enough to get to an 8-win season. Look at the talent you have on offense. With him throwing to Josh Gordon, get another wide receiver in the draft. They got a pretty good offensive line. Not that bad. Maybe a little bit of help on the right side, right tackle position. But, having another running back, you can fit yourself in a pretty good, solid offense. So I don't know. That's my point. I think what I'm trying to say is if I was a coach out there looking for a job and had a pretty good track record, and the Bills interviewed me, I'd take it in a heartbeat, even though with management might looking kind of iffy, because I think a lot of them turned down because of management. So here we go. Positives and negatives of this new head coach. Positive is he's with Rex Ryan's group when they with the Jets. Defensive coordinator in 2009, had the number 1 defense in 2009, and we all remember that's when they went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Indianapolis Colts that year. Still good defense. When he was with the Bills this year, was second in the NFL with 57 sacks. Pretty good, especially with the Bills defense, 57 total sacks, second in the NFL. And was number 1 in the NFL with allowing the league's lowest completion percentage for quarterbacks with 53.3%. It's pretty solid, as especially with the Bills, and you're going against Tom Brady twice a year. Ryan Tannehill was pretty good. And who else is in the AFC? Where's my thing? Oh, okay. Well, the Jets, that's not really. They don't have a quarterback. So, good defensive coordinator, obviously, and he knows his defense, so he can improve that defense. If he could bring that same thing over, if he brought it from the Jets to the Bills to have a pretty solid defense, I'm sure he can bring, his smartness defensively to the Browns, who probably have a bit of a better defense than the Bills. So that's a positive. I mean, because then that means if your defense can match up almost better than your offense, and your offense has some pretty good studs out there, especially if you have Johnny Manziel throwing to Josh Gordon, Dion Lewis, etc., boom, you could be looking at a pretty solid team. Negative thing is that I was reading through, is that he said, quote, "This was a lifelong dream to be a head coach in the NFL, ... said something else, and then said, however that opportunity present itself, it's fine with me," end quote. I have a problem with that. Now, I know taking an opportunity when you see it is what you're supposed to do, for whatever it is. But that kind of concerns me, as if I'm hiring someone and he says he's going to take whatever opportunity it is to become, the head coach. Now, I look at that and I say, okay, so if your management is just absolutely crap and you're not really paying attention to the roster, because if someone just says, hey, do you want to be the head coach of the Browns? And you're not really looking at anything because you're just saying whatever opportunity presents itself, I'm fine with it. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going to go ahead and take it because that's my dream. And if that doesn't make sense, I'm going to compare it to this. Me wanting to become a sports broadcaster, I want that opportunity, and I evaluate. I wouldn't, if someone just offered me, hey, come here, but you got to get your own equipment, that are thousands of dollars to, have your own broadcast equipment, professional. We're not going to supply it to you, this and that, and it's in like a bad area and all this other stuff, but it's an opportunity to become a broadcaster that I want to do and have that title. I'm not going to just be like, oh, okay, well, I'm okay with that. I'm going to take it. I'll pay for all that when I don't have the money to do all that. You understand what I'm saying? So if he's not really paying attention to the roster, to the management, to all this other technical stuff that you got to look at as moving to a head coach position in the NFL, that kind of concerns me. Now, I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, but in case he did, if he just want to get that title, as soon as possible, because that's his dream, you could be looking at a mismanaged coach, mismanagement overall, not really knowing what to do. So that kind of concerned me with that, and maybe I'm looking into it too much, but it is something that just stuck out in my mind. But also the Browns submitted a request to the Buffalo Bills to interview their linebacker coach, Jim O'Neill, and in hopes that he becomes their defensive coordinator. Jim O'Neill was paired up, obviously, with Mike Pettine, and they were also the group with Rex Ryan with the Jets. And that's about it with the Browns. But just need to get my case out there talking about the Browns and all that other good stuff. Yesterday, Vikings running back Adrian Peterson underwent groin surgery and expected to recover in 6 weeks. And the man convicted of killing former Washington Redskins safety Sean Taylor in November of 2007 was sentenced to 57 years in prison. And finally, they got it done. I mean, it's only, 7 years ago that happened? So, yeah, exactly. But thankfully, that guy is going in jail. And I like what they did. I was talking to my dad. I was like, they gave him 57 years in prison. Such an awkward kind of number. Why not life or something? But and the reason was because you give them life, then you can get out. I don't know the exact numbers, but you could get out at a certain time that would be less than 57 years. You'd get out in a certain time because of good behavior and all this other type of stuff. So instead of giving them life, give him 57 years. That way, he's got to serve majority of that, and by that time that he is eligible to get out, it would have been less than the few years if he got life type of thing. So good that he got that much. And also the Pro Bowl this Sunday, NBC, and I'll say a little few words about the Pro Bowl. I don't like this format that they got going. This Team Rise versus Team Sanders. Yes, it's gonna be entertaining, but I don't like it. I like the AFC versus the NFC. The best of the AFC conference versus the NFC. To me, that's that sounds ideal. Now I know the past several years, and well, actually the entire time, it's been just a popularity contest. This is what I think the NFL should do to keep the Pro Bowl. I'm a fan of the Pro Bowl. I am a huge fan of the Pro Bowl. This is what I think the NFL should do with the Pro Bowl. This is what they should do. Still have AFC, NFC. The thing is, and let fans vote. Fans love to vote on this stuff. They may not like to vote for the president, but we like to vote for Pro Bowl teams and all that other good stuff. So let fans vote, but don't make the entire thing of who goes to Hawaii. Don't let it be the fan vote. Let it be a small percentage. That way fans are still in it. Fans still get to say who goes, and let the popularity thing happen. But it should go by stats. And also Pro Bowl should be 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. That way everybody can go. Obviously the best teams are playing in the Super Bowl, so they obviously must have the best players. So 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, that way it's enough time. There's a break, and it brings back a little bit of energy back to football until the close, and get ready for the draft and all that other good stuff. And just let it be going by stats. Who gets, who had the most passing yards? Okay, let's say, it was obviously Peyton Manning this year. Peyton Manning's the number one quarterback, and, obviously, but there still be a fan vote for the rest of the, every position, but I don't know. To me, that makes sense in my mind. I don't see why not. But this year, it's Team Rice versus Team Sanders in one of the most ugliest uniforms you could possibly ever wear. And here we go. With Team Jerry Rice, quarterback will be Drew Brees of the Saints, Phillip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers, yes, and Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs. Running backs, Matt Forte, LaShawn McCoy, and DeMarco Murray. Fullback, Mike Tolbert of the Panthers. Used to be with the Chargers. See, we could have kept him. Wide receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, Josh Gordon of the Browns, who we just talked about, Alshon Jeffrey, and Brandon Marshall. Tight ends will be Tony Gonzalez playing his last game. Tony Gonzalez and Jimmy Graham of the Saints. I won't go through offensive line because really we don't really care about offensive line. No disrespect to offensive linemen. We just, I guess, no, I really don't want to go offensive line. Defensive line, though, that's a different thing because we like seeing defensive linemen get sacks. So, Marcel Darius of the Bills, Jason Hatcher of the Cowboys, Kyle Williams of the Bills again, Cameron Jordan of the Saints, Robert Quinn of the Rams, and Cameron Wake of the Dolphins. Linebackers, Derek Johnson, John Abraham, Justin Houston, and Robert Mathis. Safeties, Jarius Byrd of the Bills, who is very good, and I don't think he's going to be with the Bills next year. I think they already used a franchise tag on him, and he deserves a long contract and a good amount of money, and I don't think the Bills are going to do it. Eric Reed, rookie of the 49ers, Antrell Roll, the Giants. Cornerbacks, Antonio Cromartie, Brandon Flowers, Joe Hayden of the Browns, and Altron Werner. Punt returners will be Dexter McCluster, kicker Steven Jalonkowski, and punter Johnny Hecker of the Rams. So obviously they really didn't care about special teams. You got a good kicker though. Got a pretty solid kicker. And now for Team Deion Sanders, quarterback will be Nick Foles, Andrew Luck, and Cam Newton. Running backs Jamal Charles, Eddie Lacy, and Alfred Morris. Fullback Marcel Reese, who's basically a running back, just a big power guy. Wide receivers Antonio Brown, Dez Bryant, AJ Green, and Deshaun Jackson. Wow, just went for speed all around there. Jordan Cameron for tight end, Jason Witten. Defensive line, Gerald McCoy, Dontrell Pro, and Ndamukong Suh. Defensive lineman again will be Greg Hardy, J.J. Watt, and Mario Williams. Luke Kuechly and Paul Pozaus. I'm going to say, good Lord, the Jaguars. I think that's the only player other than Maurice Jones-Drew that we know on the Jaguars is a linebacker, Paul Posazani. I'll work on that. Tom Bahali, Brian Orakpo, and Terrell Suggs. Safeties will be Eric Berry, TJ Ward of the Browns, and Eric Weddle of the San Diego Chargers. How did Antonio Gates, I just now noticed that, how did Antonio Gates not get elected? Drafted. That is disrespectful. Cornerbacks, Brent Grimes, Tim Jennings, Patrick Peterson, and Darrell Rivas. Punt returner will be Cordell Patterson, and kickers are Justin Tucker and Brandon Fields as the punter. And that is your Pro Bowl, and if you want more in-depth on it, go on the Facebook page. I posted it on there, and you can see the entire Pro Bowl roster with all the offensive linemen if you're very in favor of that. And that's basically it for the show. It's been a very slow day, very slow week for news, other than the Browns finally getting their head coach and all that other good stuff. So the next show will be this upcoming Monday, January 27th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at @short_sports247. Also on Facebook, The Short Sports Show, iHeartRadio, YouTube, The Short Sports Show, and Facebook. I think I just said that, Short Sports Show. I got to make sure. There's a lot of things that's just too many things to keep up with. And follow me on Spreaker if you like this and you want to listen to other episodes and all that other good stuff. Thank you guys for listening. I will see you again Monday. God first, God bless.